for Director Collins, of the companies that bid, how many were locally owned?
The low bidder was out of town. The second low bidder was local and was giving a local bidding preference of 5%. CDA Maxent was the third low bidder. They are local and were giving a local bidding preference of 5%. Top Notch was the fourth low bidder. They did not.
Let's just stick with the top three.
Okay.
All right. So, CDA is not based in Memphis.
It's owned by Maxent, which is, my understanding, is a company out of Maryland.
Okay, so that's not Memphis.
But they have some sort of registration with the state of Tennessee that lists Memphis, Tennessee as an office, so they qualified for the local bidding preference for that reason.
Well, these guys said they have an office in Memphis too.
They have contracts in Memphis. I think Dynamics said they have contracts in Memphis, the equivalent of like 10,000 billing hours. They didn't say they were a Memphis company.
So, well, but they're not a Memphis company either, as I understand. So, Director, they're owned out of Maryland, is what Director Collins just said.
Yes, CDA Maxent was given the local bidding preference because they're registered on the state of Tennessee Secretary of State's website as their physical principal office being located in Memphis.
And where does the ownership of the company reside? Where does the ownership of the company? I mean, you could have a principal office here, but the people that own the company are based out of Memphis.
I don't know.
That's a poor metric, first of all, for your designation on.
Or I'm sorry, sir. We use what's in the ordinance for local bidding preference. It's based on where the physical principal business is located. The company must be located in the city of Memphis. They have to present to us a copy that they've paid their taxes in the city and the county, and we use that to apply the preference.
Okay.
So I don't know. All I know is what they have on that site. He can tell you where.
Change the ordinance. Yeah. Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Dates, please hold on.
No, I'm trying to understand where the company is where the ownership of the company resides. So
I'm sorry, I didn't know that you asked Mr. Dates.
Anybody that can shed light on that would be great.
If he's asking you a question, come on.
Councilman, like I said before, I don't know what's going on with this new president here. I own CD8 Maxent. I'm the 75% owner of that joint venture. Maxent is the 25% owner. Prior to my illness, I was 100% owner. I stepped down from the operation, and they came in and they're running my company for me. This is the truth of the matter. Like I said before, something is going on with this president here. I've been performing this contract professionally since 1988.
And I appreciate that. I'm just trying to understand where the ownership is.
They're lying about the ownership, is what I'm saying to you, sir. Okay. I own 75% of this joint venture. It's duly noted. Everybody knows it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so on the MWBE, out of the top three, could you just run down what the percentages were?
Sure. Dynamic was 36% MWBE, and that was all MBE. Clarion is 51% WBE, 49% MBE, and CDA Maxent is 30% MBE.
Okay. And so then you get to price. So it seems you've got one company that's definitely out of town, one that y'all say out of town, they say they're in town, and one that is 100% based in Memphis. And then so it comes down to price. And I guess my question is, I mean, we're not talking about, we're talking about protecting the utility grid in a very dangerous time. And so when does price, like on professional services, you guys have leeway on you don't have to go with the very lowest common denominator. But to me, protecting, aside from all the great arguments that have been made up here about fairness from my colleagues, but I don't want the cheapest company making the least amount of money protecting the utility grid. I want people that are happy, that are well trained, and it just that makes no sense to me. So can you or Mr. Wade just help me understand when you guys have the ability not to just go with the lowest common? I mean, we're not buying paper here, paper clips or pens. We're protecting our utility grid in a dangerous time.
This is a sealed bid. It's not an RFP. So what we do...
And why is that? Why do we do this?
Why? Because this is not a situation where we're seeking a solution to a problem. We already know exactly how many unarmed guards that we want. We already know exactly how many armed guards. We already know exactly where they're going to be stationed. So what we're looking for is a price and their supplier diversity level, and we're looking for their level of experience. If they meet the experience, that's a pass-fail. If they meet the experience, then they can bid on the project. When they bid on the project, the things that we look at is the price and the supplier diversity. Those are the two things that we're looking at. This is a sealed bid. And this is a standard process that is used for hundreds of contracts at MLGW, at the city, at Shelby County. It's a sealed bid.
So what are our options if we vote and if this doesn't pass tonight? Then you go back to the drawing board?
Yes.
And how does the security handle in between now and when that happens?
We'll have to figure that out.
Okay, but it'll continue.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Conrad. You asked my question. Mr. Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of my questions, Mr. Collins, were answered upstairs before we got moved down here. I do want to ask about the seal process. When those bids are unsealed, your procurement officer handles those bids and then reviews them and then grades them top to bottom. Is that?
I'll let Joselle answer that question for you.
When the bids are open, they are forwarded to our supplier diversity coordinator, who reviews the bids and conducts a supplier diversity compliance review. Based on the goal, based on the documentation that is submitted, she looks at all of the bids and determines whether or not those bids comply with the supplier diversity goal. All the bids that comply with the supplier diversity goal are then forwarded to the user area, which would be the security services area. Any bid that did not meet the supplier diversity goal and did not have the adequate non-attainment justification documentation, they're not further forwarded for review. And so at that time, that security services area, they're looking at the bids, they're double checking the numbers, they're checking the prices, and they're also checking to see if the bidder submitted any exceptions information that would take exceptions to any of the terms and conditions or anything that we have in our bid document. And after that, the bidder that has the lowest price with no exceptions to our specifications is the bidder that they recommend for an award.
And so, back at Mr. Collins' statement about you know how many unarmed guards you need, you know how many armed guards you need. Mm-hmm. Does the bid process or in the bid tell you that number and the number of experience these individuals would have in the bid, in that application?
Experience is reviewed during the bidder qualification process. The way the bids work, we advertise the bids in the newspaper. We have a mandatory bidder orientation meeting where all of the bidders attend the meeting. We go over the bid documents, the qualifications. We talk about the project. Bidders are given an opportunity to ask questions. Everyone is in the room at the same time. And then we give them the date that they submit their qualifications.
Ms. Booker, I'm on the clock, so I got to get you
concise. But what I'm saying
is
that they submit their qualifications prior to the bids being due. And
my question is this. I understand the bid